All right, Broncos country, welcome back to Mile High Monsters. And joining, as always, is NFL expert and super cool guy, Colum Cronin, who sat and watched the Super Bowl just like Sean Payton and Bo Nix watched the Super Bowl. And I hope they were taking notes because I know you were taking notes on what this team needs to do, what teams need to do, and what this game taught us as NFL fans. Colin, first of all, welcome back. It's good to see you. How are you, sir?
I'm not too shabby at all, Mike, though I will say that we are now into the long NFL offseason. And that's why we need to learn the lessons, because it gives us things to think about, to talk about, and hopefully to see the Broncos do a few bits and pieces over the coming months so that we cannot go one step further but 2 steps further, and that Bo Nix can be hoisting the Lombardi next February. Though I will say I've seen a lot of people say that, that's almost a foregone conclusion that the Broncos will get back there. I am very optimistic that the Broncos will be competitive for many years to come, but nothing in football, nothing at all is guaranteed.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Now, if you bear with me for a second, in the preseason, there were a lot of prognostications happening. So just to warn you out there, at the beginning of the season, now this is USA Today, this is NBC, this is CBS, this is 538, this is all Athletic, this is everyone. The Chiefs will three-peat as Super Bowl champions. Title number 1. The Eagles will repeat as Super Bowl winners. This NBC. The Ravens are the clear Super Bowl favorites. We do have a Patriots one in here, believe it or not. But no major national media outlets, pundits, experts predicted the Seahawks or the New England Patriots teams to reach the Super Bowl. Their odds were like 60-1 and 80-1. This is why the offseason is fun. This is also why it's dangerous to buy into hype, because now I look through everything from a Broncos lens. So when I watched this Super Bowl, I saw several things, and we'll get into that, and then we'll talk about what the Broncos need to do to make sure that they're prepared for this late season. First of all, we need to keep Bo Nix healthy, but beyond that, what I saw in this game, Colum, was defense is still king once you get to that level. Not making mistakes, being ready for that big stage. It definitely comes down to coaching. It definitely comes down to game plans and all that. But I saw a lot of bashing about game plans early in the game and what wasn't working. But what I saw was, aside from the Patriots unable to pick up the same damn blitz over and over and over and over again, that Drake May, the plays were there to be made. The same could be said for Sam Darnold. There were plays to be made that weren't being played. So I understand the Super Bowl hype and the pressure and how all that works into that. But it seems, again, me being a weapons guy for Bo, I learn this every year and I try to remember it. Defensive identity and the ability to run the ball just come back around every year, do they not?
They do, time and time and time and time again.
That was 4 times again right there, folks.
Because I would argue, Michael Carmelini, that the single biggest difference between the Seattle Seahawks and the Denver Broncos. And some people, I have seen it out there. Vic Lombardi, I saw your tweet that the Broncos would have beaten the Seattle Seahawks, if Bo Nix and J.K. Dobbins were healthy. Well, we would see. I think it would have been an interesting game, but Dobbins was never going to be healthy. And guess what? You cannot bank on that. And here is the difference. The single biggest difference, as I mentioned, the Seahawks had an insurance policy.
Right.
That
now,
is
Colum, we've talked about this on this very show. It was criminal.
Saw it in action.
It was criminal.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't criminal to take Dobbins. In my opinion, I thought the pickup was great. It was criminal to not have a plan B. And yeah, this game was a perfect showcase of that. If J.K. Dobbins came out and somehow played that game, I would not have faith that he would have made it past the first quarter or the first 5 carries. I mean, that Liz Frank is no joke injury. I know you say it's the off season, it's a long season. It's actually part of my favorite season because I have so many guests that get to come on for Mic'd Up, and we get to talk about free agency and the draft and team building. So it's going to be fun. So don't let negative Nancy over there get you down. But we do need to learn some lessons from what we saw in this Super Bowl, and then figure out how to apply that. I'll get George Payton on the phone and Sean and make sure that they know everything that you say from this moment on. I'm begging you, make good decisions for the Broncos. But let's finish up with that game. Colin, what did you see like over your 200-foot view just of the game? I didn't see the first half. A lot of it, I had to go back and rewatch it. It's crazy. A Super Bowl fell on a day, I think, for the first time in my life where it was like, okay, I committed to this. I'm going to this. I have to do this. And then I scooted out there as fast as I could. And I honestly, looks like I didn't miss anything. I assumed there was a blizzard with the numbers that I saw and that Jared Stidham was starting on both sides of the field. Those numbers were atrocious from both quarterbacks in that first half.
And not just the first half in the case of the Patriots.
The whole game.
You had I think both quarterbacks struggled, which wouldn't be a huge surprise. I mean, Drake May had struggled throughout the playoffs. We know that Sam Darnold has at times struggled, but I suppose the piece with Darnold is that he wasn't the turnover machine that we have seen in the past, and that is a testament to the coaching staff in Seattle and Kubiak and what they have done to mitigate some of his bad tendencies and to make the most of what he does well. And he could be pretty meh last night, to use one of the terms from the Super Bowl ads in the YouTube ad featuring Jason Kelsey, used meh. And Sam Darnold was pretty meh, but it didn't matter. He didn't make the boneheaded decisions that he has made in the past. And they were able to lean on the run game. They were able to lean on the defense, and they took the points because they realized that the Patriots weren't going to score many points. So getting points on the board was much more important. And hopefully, I think Sean Payton will live in his head forever. I think he will regret that one. I think he has to look back to the no call, Robbie Coleman, as taking it away from him, but he had no control over that. He had control. Now, again, I don't think we win it given the situations we found ourselves in. But you saw it. The Seahawks just put the points up, get the ball back, get down. Okay, we're not getting 7. Let's not force it. And that was the big piece. They trusted the process, and they've trusted the process in a whole host of different ways. And that's not to say it always works out, but you gave some of the pieces at the start, right, about predictions for the season. If you look back to last March, and all the way through the rest of the summer, the media consensus was that the Seahawks had made a huge mistake. They had moved off of Geno Smith and they had brought in Sam Darnold, and this was an incredibly stupid
$100 million contract.
Yeah,
$50 million guaranteed. The stupidest move since Russell Wilson. It was just like as wrong as could be.
And as we are here right now, the Seahawks are Super Bowl champions, and the Raiders have the number 1 overall pick. So the experts aren't always right. The media is very often wrong, and as a GM, you have to be prepared to deal with that, to block out the noise, to keep swinging, because John Schneider has made some really terrible trades. Okay, the Jamal Adams trade was awful. What they gave up and what they got back. He has won the lottery at times, you know, in terms of what the Broncos gave him for Russell Wilson and moving on from Russ. Because if Russ was still there, they win another Super Bowl. And they have made move after move after move.
Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
If Russell Wilson is still there, they win a Super Bowl?
No, they don't win a Super Bowl.
Okay, because I thought you just said if he was there, they win another Super Bowl. Okay.
He was a complete cancer. And if you go back and again, you look at it and why they decided to move on from him, but he was a legend. And they took some flack for that, you know. Let Russ cook when it first happened. The important point is you have to trust your process. You have to ignore the hot takes that we've talked about, ignore the Stephen A. Smiths, even ignore the Mina Kimes. I like Mina sometimes, but she's not absolved from getting things wrong. She was totally on board with the idea that Geno was infinitely better than Sam Darnold. And I think you need intellectual independence, right? That's what you need as a GM. And you need to have that ability, right? We talk about the best QBs and the best kickers have an ability to put a mistake out of their mind and go out and take the shot again, right? And that's what GMs do. And consider the fact that during the season, plenty of the media will tell you there's nothing you can do at the trade deadline. Are you joking me? There's nobody out there. It's not worthwhile. Well, bringing in Shaheed made a huge difference to them. So if you're in a situation whereby you are pushing and there's a real opportunity, work the phones. We've seen Howie do that time and time again for the Eagles. You roll the dice. That's not to say live every day like it's your last, but it's to say there are smart moves to be made to improve your situation. And the Seahawks are the front office there. The reason they are Super Bowl champions is this year they had the best front office, the best head coach, and the best team, and that is why they're Super Bowl champions.
I kind of agree with you. It kind of proved itself out that way. I think the thing about GMs, what you said, having your own, you have to have conviction, and it has to be your own conviction. I liken back to we're going to get into everybody's mock draft here soon, and everybody's going to start mocking things, and all that is someone is going to mock a player to Denver, and then 50 people are going to mock that player to Denver with absolutely no original thought at all. And so it's the same thing, team building. I think that a GM as a boss needs to be like, you can't be job scared. when you have that position. You have to have conviction and you have to have a vision. And Sam Darnold was part of that vision. He knew exactly what he wanted in a quarterback. He knew it would be unpopular. He knew it would be crazy. He's on his 5th team, but he saw things in Sam Darnold that a lot of us saw, frankly, that I saw stupidly in Zach Wilson, and I still kind of see. So, but I'm not a GM, so I don't have to worry about having conviction on that. Like, I still think as that person grows older and more mature, Zach Wilson still has potential and possibly a fit somewhere. So Sam Darnold was on his radar as someone, you know what? He hasn't been successful, but he's done these things well and matured. And when he's had his opportunities, who's the backup in San Francisco? The first round draft pick.
Mac Jones.
Okay, Mac Jones. Now, San Francisco is saying, we're not going to let him go. We're keeping him. Basically, what they're saying is he is definitely up for trade. If you have enough trade capital and money, he's up for trade. But he's another one that at the more opportunities he gets, you just don't know. But the fact is that they went all in, and the Vikings gave away, wasn't it, Sam Darnold and another player, and then those two players both went to the Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl championship. So, you know, there's something to be said about knowing the identity of your team, and the Broncos are getting closer to knowing the identity of their team, I think. But the Seahawks definitely knew what their identity was. Their defensive head coach, who called defensive plays, knew what he needed from his quarterback, someone who could run the offense when it was there, and when it wasn't there, not give it away and lose a game for them. And that formula worked. Colum, I think exactly what you said, but I think it's about conviction. And I think that goes with the media as well. And maybe we can touch on that a little bit later too. Nobody seems to have their own opinions out there anymore. But now, did you have, what were your thoughts on Drake May? Drake May struggled mightily in this game, obviously. He was not ready for this. Doesn't mean he won't be. But did you see anything there that was not just done to him by Seattle, but by his own, I guess, ineptitude or ill preparedness? What were your observations of Drake and just the overall Patriot, the team that at the Super Bowl?
And I think it's very easy to dunk on a QB after they lose a Super Bowl, and Elway got it plenty when he had brought bad Broncos teams to Super Bowls. Drake May can't control who he is playing, and he can control the media narrative that surrounds him. The media narrative got out of control. I think what you saw was Seattle were, the number one defense in the league, right? That is the reality. The Broncos had a fantastic defense. The Texans had a fantastic defense. But the schemes that the Seahawks came up with time and time again, and they exploited some of the weaknesses that the Patriots and their tendencies. Vance did a really good job a few weeks ago, right? And I think if you're the Patriots, you've got to look at Josh McDaniels, particularly in the playoffs. I mean, we know what we've seen him as head coach. The Raiders have seen him as head coach. He's plenty of Super Bowl rings under his belt, but with Tom Brady, and they start really poorly. Even when Brady was there, they tended to start very poorly in Super Bowls, and Brady dug them out of a lot of holes. I saw, like, Will Campbell was horrendous. Like, he had the worst performance that a tackle has had in the Super Bowl in terms of what he gave up. And I mean, that when that is, you could see Drake May, like you could see him constantly keep an eye here because he was worried about his blind side. And
6 sacks, could have been 7 sacks almost. Yeah, it was a problem. They weren't picking up that blitz. The poor guy was running for his life, or trying to run for his life. So yeah, I get that.
And the other thing was,
see, if you start coughing, then I'm gonna have to talk, and you know that.
Yeah,
I don't
should
talk.
not. But the other piece was that they had learned from the Broncos with Drake May's running ability, and you didn't see that. They didn't allow him to do that. I mean, that is ultimately the big difference in terms of the Patriots offense. The Patriots offense against the Broncos was Drake May's legs, and
Yes.
the Seahawks didn't allow that to happen. And that's a piece they take away. That's a piece as you get older, you learn a little bit, but I don't think you can pin the loss on Drake May. He came up against a fearsome defense, and his O-line was porous, and I don't think he got a huge amount of help from his wide receivers. His receivers are wide receivers will always be divas. It's how a lot of them are. But the Patriots have Matt Collins likes to make it all about him. Yeah, great. He got a couple of nice balls yesterday, but Diggs was trying to make it about himself as well, and that to me, they just weren't good enough. I mean, Drake May could have played as well as he could possibly play, but ultimately the Patriots weren't good enough, and they were fortunate, in Denver. They were fortunate to eke out a victory against a team that didn't have QB1, didn't have RB1, and was its own worst enemy at times. But you could see like the jump in terms of the competition from the regular season to the postseason was significant for the Patriots. Drake May got worse and worse and worse. But I will also point, Mike, because sometimes people miss, and particularly in those season preview pieces, and when we look entirely to the past, and we say that team was great last year, but and they should be good again, or that team was bad last year. We miss the moves that they make. We also miss the fact of the schedule, right? And in terms of, are you playing a first place schedule, a second place schedule, or a last place schedule? And that can have a real impact as well. So Drake May beat what he could during the regular season, and then it came to the playoffs. And look, you need luck in life, you need luck in sport. The Patriots got plenty of it in the playoff run. They rode their luck, and then they ran into a juggernaut. I don't think you can pin it on him.
No. So the top teams by DVOA since 1978. Okay, Super Bowl. The best was the 91 Washington Redskins, 53. Bears in 85. The 07 Patriots, and the 2025 Seahawks. So basically what that's telling you is pretty much everyone you played on your schedule that year to get to the Super Bowl was nothing close to what you were going to face when you face the 2025 Seahawks. They're the fourth best team based on DVOA. So that was a nightmare. And then I do have something I would like to let me find this real quick, and bear with me, because this kind of supports your point about Drake May, and nobody likes to bag on the Patriots and Drake May more than Mike Carmelini, I promise you. So EPA per drop back, okay? The worst ever Super Bowl winning quarterback in EPA per drop back was Kerry Collins for the New York Giants back in 2000. The second worst was Peyton Manning in 2015 at negative 0.58. So Drake May is sixth tied for 6 with Peyton Manning again in, of course, the 2013 Super Bowl against the Seahawks. So 6 and 7, Drake May, Peyton Manning, Super Bowl. Let's see, what Super Bowl is that? Don't know. It doesn't list, but that was this year, and then in 2014. So I don't know what year that is, which Super Bowl that is. But they both had negative 34 against the Seahawks. The Seahawks, if you're going to play the Seahawks, you're probably not going to get Superman quarterback play, and you're going to have to find a different way to win. And that's kind of across the board in the NFC, depending on who you meet. Like, I thought the Broncos and the Sean McVay Rams would have been a better matchup for the Broncos than the Seahawks and the Broncos in the Super Bowl this year. Kind of for the same reasons that what Drake May just went through, a first-year quarterback against that kind of pressure and that kind of defense in that atmosphere. But I also believe that it might not have looked quite as bad. But I'm just going to put up, just a little bit of something to play here while we're talking about Bo Nix and his season. Can you see that on the screen, Colum?
Mm-hmm.
I know you hate to watch Bo Nix do this kind of stuff, but look, guys, this is I didn't see anything like this. Now, these defenses are not the same, but what I'm looking at here in year 2 from Bo is his footwork, his playmaking ability, all the superstar stuff that I want to see from my quarterback. And warts and all, he still has all this stuff, but clearly underestimated this person. Okay, I think the national media and some of us were not prepared for this kind of growth, this kind of comfort level in the pocket. It's all going to be next year fodder to look at, but the Super Bowl is a different game. Now, I don't think we would have seen quite that, but how do I want to put this? Drake May was sacked more times in the playoffs this year than Bo Nix was sacked the entire season. So sack avoidance, offensive line, it all comes together. It's not a real thing because Bo didn't even make it to the AFC Championship game. Of course, he was injured. But I think it's comforting a little bit to see when you watch that game that for a period of time when it was 9-0 at the half or whatever it was, there was a point where it was a little closer than that, maybe an 8-point game. For Broncos fans out there, I just want to say that I won't go out and say what you hear in the media about how we would have won and we would have done that, although I think we would have, with our healthy starting running back and our healthy running back, we would have put on a better show, I think, than Drake May and the Patriots did. But we'll never know. We'll never know.
Yeah. No, I think like that ability Nix has to not take sacks. It is underrated at times. I think undoubtedly Drake May has growing to do. I'm not saying that, but the media does love to build people up, and there are plenty of Patriots fans who got over their skis completely. But he has 33 career games. He's 102 sacks and 24 fumbles. That's a piece he really has to work on. And I've seen plenty of Patriots fans and others in the media say that the future is bright, he'll be back. Everybody's supposed to be back. Joe Burrow was supposed to be back. Josh Allen was supposed to.
Joe Burrow, yeah. Joe Burrow just needs to stay healthy.
Yeah, But the thing is that you just don't know how things are going to work out. But they certainly, it's a real piece around sack avoidance, and he has got to work on ball security.
You're talking about Drake May.
Oh yeah, like
Okay.
no. I mean that's
Okay.
Bo Nix's, one of Bo Nix's superpowers.
Yeah.
Like again, there are some Broncos fans who are getting a little bit over their skis on. Bo is fantastic. Bo is ascending. Bo is becoming one of the better, and I mean really, really good. But I see some Broncos fans who want to anoint Bo Nix as the first, second, or third best QB in the league. I'm not ready to go there.
Yeah. Well,
But
he is.
I have him.
I agree with
I
the
have him
first part.
Yeah,
He's ascending. I have seen
absolutely.
fantastic things from him, certainly after the break.
Mhm.
So again, he's a second-year quarterback, and
Mhm.
we're
But
in a good spot.
yeah.
It's okay to be crazy when you're a fan. It's okay to be over your skis when you're a fan. And it's okay for me to do it because I'm a fan. It's not okay for you to do it. You're the one that keeps me down to earth, you and Zach and Nick and everybody else that comes on this show and tramps down all my dreams and hopes.
You just on the second year QB piece, it is fascinating to me how that gets used when it fits a narrative, right? So Drake May, right, what was the second youngest QB to start the Super Bowl, right, before the ball had been snapped last night, and that was a good thing. All of a sudden, he's inexperienced. The other thing I would point to is that a couple of years ago, Michael Carmelini, and you may remember, do you remember the Vance Joseph era when he was head coach of the Denver Broncos? Not when he was defensive coordinator, but when he was head coach.
Yeah, I seem to recall. Yeah.
You
Drew
also
Lock.
remember the Vic Fangio era when Vic was head coach of the Denver Broncos. They weren't particularly wonderful, but the media kept pointing out, year two, how can you have expectations? How can any of you have expectations? Oh, you need to give it time. It takes time to transmit a philosophy. It takes time to transmit ideas. What year is Mike Macdonald in as head coach of the Seattle Seahawks?
1.
Year two. It's year two.
Oh, is he two? Is he second year?
Yeah, they didn't make it. They actually lost the playoffs last year, then they moved off of Geno. So
hey, did you forget the rules? Never ask Carmelini a question.
I'll do so the next time. But
ask him. There's nothing I enjoy more than making a fool out of myself in front of everybody.
It was trotted out there time and time again. Oh, you can't expect somebody to be able to transit.
Call his own plays.
He had exactly. And he still won the Super Bowl. Now, that's not to say the Seahawks won't have issues next year. They may. They've lost their OC, right? He's gone to the Raiders. He could end up being a real problem for us. Happy to see hey, welcome back, Adam Gase. You're back in the league.
Yeah,
I was getting worried, man. The Chargers were making some really smart moves this offseason, and then they did that. So that's reassuring that they are still the Chargers in that respect. But I just think media narratives are really interesting, and what is used to placate is really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
It was the same with QBs, and you have to sit QBs, and why would the Broncos want to draft a QB and bring somebody in and all of this stuff? Now, I will say, turns out Seattle doing what John Elway did, except they went with the right sort of QB, and not Case Keenum or Joe Flacco.
It's what if it goes to prove anything, it's that there are several ways to make an omelet. But that has to be based on the ingredients that you already have in the kitchen, and so you can bring in Joe Flacco. You can bring in Sam Darnold. You can bring in someone like, if your plan is ball control, defense, run the ball. You can also get to the Super Bowl with, and by the way, these 2024 quarterbacks, Drake May, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, have all made the playoffs in their first 2 years. Incredibly so. I believe, is Bo Nix the only one to do it both years?
Yeah, because May didn't
Because
make it last
May was
year.
injured.
Yeah.
And then Jaden was injured this year.
Well, they had Jared Mayo as their head coach last year.
Sure, nobody was making the playoffs then.
They moved on,
which was hailed as the greatest coaching hire of all time at the time. We're gonna have to do a whole show just on that. But what a hell of a class from 2024. Now, I did a quick overall ranking of second-year quarterbacks. This is just for you, Colum Cronin, of the Dublin to Denver podcast, by the way, the best podcast on wherever you get your podcast. They list Drake May as the number one quarterback from the draft. This is a compilation of NFL.com, PF, Pro Football Focus, ESPN, QBR, etc. Drake May, number one. Bo Nix, number two. Caleb Williams, number three. Jaden Williams, number four. Bo Nix, love him or not, is getting the recognition that Broncos fans have been clamoring for, albeit way too early, because we get excited about Drew Lock and we get excited about players. But this feels a little bit different. This is a rookie setting quarterback, an NFL setting quarterback. Everybody has preconceived notions, including you and I. Now, his play on the field has been that of a Ferris Bueller that you need to get under control. This is Sean Payton's words, not mine. You got to control him sometimes. But if you just take a deep breath and look back, I've said it before, in the entire 2025 season, Colum, every time Bo Nix was asked to go out on the field and win a game late, he did it. Every single time where the opportunity was there for him to go win a game, he did not fail this team one single time. He got beat by the Jaguars. The team got beat by the Jaguars. There was no coming back from that. But the Colts and what was the other loss?
The Chargers.
The Chargers. He did his job. He either got us in position to win the game. Then we had the leverage call and lost. And then just in time came out, MVP candidate, just in time came out and marched them back down, and they got the field goal to take that one. But Bo did his job. He didn't get another chance because there was no time on the clock. So that's a kind of an amazing stat for me. A 14-3 team with 10 games in, had no running backs, wide receiver group that was worst in the league, second worst in the league, couldn't catch a pass. And yet, so I think we've got our guy there. So knowing what we know from Super Bowls past and this past Super Bowl, where we are in the AFC picture, what specific lessons should the Broncos take from this game that maybe we can hope for in the offseason, that they'll take advantage of, or that they learned enough from to make some proper changes?
Lean into your identity would be what I would say more than anything, because I think that's where, that piece that Wickersham had with Sean Payton after the game, and he's talking about, he goes back, you just had to go back a week, and he's like, why didn't the Bears kick the field goal? Stop second guessing yourself. At no point did Mike McDonald second guess himself. The Seahawks defense was the Seahawks defense was the Seahawks defense. And that again, you are going against the best of the best every week. You are not going to win every time. The bounce of the ball will sometimes go against you. A penalty may go against you. You can run out of time, but you know who you are. You know what you're about. And I do think we have that in Nick's, right? Especially he is a winner. He finds ways to win. It's not always pretty, but he gets the job done. I would say that the reality is that, as much as, the cliche is defense wins championships, yes, but you have to be able to move the ball as well.
You have to be able to score more points
right?
than your opponent too.
The Patriots played pretty good defense overall, but ultimately they couldn't move the ball, and that's going to wear you down.
Yeah.
So you have got to me, know who you are, lean into it, have an insurance policy, and is really, really important. And I think then, about the defense, like the trenches are so important, and that's a piece whereby you can't stand still. And we talked about this last week when we were looking at, what the Broncos might do. I think trying to return the same unit 3 years in a row is really difficult to do. And other teams, there's so much kind of movement in the NFL that you need to be on the move as well. But the thing, look at that Seahawks team, and, there was no obvious weakness there, right? You can say that,
right.
Are there better QBs than Sam Darnold? Sure, but does he fit what they were doing? Yeah, he did. Their run game was really solid.
How many Pro Bowl players did the Seahawks have this year?
I'd be looking at all pros more than anything.
Pros.
But
yeah,
while you do that, the other difference, right, is that in JSN, they had a superstar WR1 who forces other teams to change how they approach. Like, I want to see Courtland Sutton has been an amazing servant for the Broncos. I want to see him back. But at this point in his career, Court does not shape how opposing defenses go about their business. The Seahawks did it in so many different ways, okay? Because they had a 1-2 punch in the run game that could smash you in the mouth. They brought in Shaheed. They realized that they needed somebody to stretch the field, so they bring in Shaheed. And that worries defenses in so many different ways, right? Because you've got to worry about him as a returner, you've got to worry about him stretching the field. And Mike, when something is in your head, you can't.
There's nothing in my head. There's literally nothing in my head.
Perfect. But when you are conscious of a situation, you cannot. You're not at 100%, right? And I'll go to right. Lindsey Vonn in the Olympics yesterday. Had that what that was yesterday, or was that was that Saturday?
Day before yesterday.
So she had the really terrible, she does her ACL, she decides she's going to ski anyway.
Yeah, good for her.
And it wasn't the knee in ways, right? But what it was the knees in the back of her head. So it impacts what you're doing. So if you're now kicking in the NFL, right, and you're going, I do not want to give it to Shaheed because I saw what he did against the 49ers. So every kick is like, I need to put it away from him. I need to try to put this away from him. And that's what's in your head. It's not, I can just go about my own business in this. And I mean, look, that's been proven time and time again. Tony Dungy famously, let's not kick to Devin Hester and then going, no, I'm not going to be scared. Probably he got away with it.
90,
and I just think they had so many difference makers that was really and they brought in, they had that wonderful mixture of experience and youth, and what they had, which the Broncos Super Bowl 50 team had, they brought in a legendary figure from the Cowboys who was a great player who needed a ring and knew that they weren't going to get a ring in Dallas, so they come across and they end up getting the ring. So finding players who are hungry, I think, is really what you need. Like those guys, like the relentlessness that they showed time and time and time again was so impressive. And sometimes that that isn't the only thing, but I think what
No,
was really interesting to me is I thought we might see more from Mike Vrabel. I always had the Seahawks winning this,
sure.
but I expected a bit more from Vrabel. But because he outcoached Payton, that's not to say he'll do it again the next day. But he did outcoach Payton in the AFC Championship game. But he had his pants pulled down last night.
He did, and he outcoached Sean Payton with a 3-point win against Jared Stidham in a. I mean, I don't know. We can argue about that, but yes, he did outcoach him. I agree.
The Broncos. I think at the full. Did the Broncos have a better team? I mean, he found ways to get a bad team there.
They beat a better team that day.
I think in the fullness of time, right? Everybody's kind of dunking on him right now. I think you will recognize that Vrabel did a heck of a job to get that roster. And that was coaching, because they had no business belonging where they did. And it was more like the charting, they win in the regular season, but they managed to chart a course. Did they ride their luck? Absolutely. But my goodness, that was Vrabel keeping the ship steady, pulling out interesting bits and pieces when he needed to. But there was none of that last night. It was bully ball. And that the reality is that you can throw as many flags as you want, you can make the game as safe as you want, but there is a physical aspect. And when you go out there and you're Will Campbell, or last year, as we saw, the Eagles do, when somebody goes out there and they tell you, I'm going to kick your ass, and then they kick your ass and they say, I'm back on the field again in 4 minutes, I'm going to kick your ass again. That is the most dispiriting thing in the world.
It is. A lot of Super Bowl teams tend to have that that sort of violent confidence. I know that Von Miller and the team that you were talking about felt very much that they were going to beat the crap out of the Panthers that day, and they had the plan to do it. And then they went and executed exactly that plan with one of the worst quarterback plays, over a game. But he limited mistakes. He didn't connect on a lot of balls, but the plan was there and the will to, they did that. And then you brought up the other one about, and I remember exactly how you put it, because I was looking up how many All-Pros. It looks like they only had one first-team All-Pro, which was Njigba. For the Seahawks, but a balanced team. So I will take a balanced, well-matched positional team over 5 All-Pros and a bunch of scrubs that don't quite fit the team over, building it the other way certainly is my preferred way too. But when the Broncos beat Green Bay in 32, I spoke with a few Broncos on that team, and one of the things that they had in common that they talked about was we weren't going to make the mistake of trying to stop what the 96 Green Bay Packers did. We were going to impose our will on them and make them beat us. They kind of, when you you've got to be old enough to remember this 96 Packer team, which was a Super Bowl winning team, super powerful. They looked unbeatable the whole next season. And when the Broncos faced them in the Super Bowl, I think they were like 13-point underdogs in that game or something. Like there was no chance the Broncos were going to beat them, according to the whole world. It was a foregone conclusion. And so instead of trying to figure out how they were going to stop the Green Bay Packers from doing this and stop them from doing that, they said, no, we're going to go and run the ball down their throat and make them stop us and be opportunistic on defense. And that's exactly what they did. And that goes back to the conviction stuff that we talked about too, even in a team building aspect and as a game plan. It hurts me to see to watch the Broncos last season. Although we went 14-3, my fragile heart had a lot of trouble when we would clearly have the opportunity to put games away, and then we would kind of turtle and play protection football. And we won those games, so good on you, Sean. But sometimes we had to do some crazy stuff to win games late because of that, letting teams hang around, maybe not imposing any sort of will. I think this goes back to my three things. If you don't mind, I know this is your show. This offseason, the team identity. Now we already have, I won't call our defense elite ever. I think they're a very good defense at times. And they can be a very good defense with a few minor, personnel pickups and maybe maybe a few scheme changes. We're going to have to get into all that, but we need to remember that we are a defensive team so far. Still, we are still that. We are better on defense than we are at offense at this point, even with Bo Nix. Now, on offense, this is not a great running back draft. Okay, so there are some players in the draft that could help this Broncos team, guys, but it's not a super great running back draft. The Broncos need to get a couple real every down backs in there, because if you're going to play defense and run game and run the clock, it's pretty hard to do when you can't run the ball. And this team essentially could not run the ball after week 10. So those two things, and then really just, I think, prioritize back on what I was talking about on the defense. The pass rush, some defensive depth. I don't want to see another cornerback drafted this year, please, George, if you're listening to me. We already have one too many. I think that's going to change. This is why I like the offseason, because we're going to find out. We've got about 14 days till free agency starts, I think. But those three things really for me, Colin, what I saw, I didn't learn anything. I just reaffirmed what I already knew. The Super Bowl is a different game. It always is. And it's a game that can expose a team's weaknesses, because there's a lot of game planning that can go on there. Aside from the execution problems that we saw, those are you don't want them, but they happen. Like, this is not the end of Drake May. This is not the Hall of Fame for what's his name, Sam Darnold. It's not that big. It was one game, and this is the way it went. And Seattle had a better team and a better game plan, but they also had, just as you said, they didn't have a glaring weakness. Like, I don't know who their superstars are, but I know that they didn't have any real duds out there. And there were some duds on that Patriots squad. So I think what I'm saying is there's a few big signings I need to see, but I need to see more identifying our 40%, 50% players and turning them into 60%, 70% players plus those guys. I think we need a number one wide receiver. We need 2 running backs and an inside linebacker, and then we can start talking from there. What are your thoughts on that? How crazy am I?
No, I mean, I think you've outlined what it is.
And then when I say how crazy am I mean just based on that statement, not from what you know about me as a person.
I think you look at the Seahawks, right? And there are 2 running backs. They took both of those guys in the second round, and that is investment, and that's what you want to do, because that means that you have that insurance policy, and you have that kind of the 1-2 punch. So I think the other thing I suppose is you never know exactly how somebody is going to transition into the league. And that's obviously changing further with the NIL money a little bit. So, we've got more information and more data points, but that hunger and a high motor is a huge piece. So I think we really need this WR1, RB1, tight end 1, but I think it's difficult to do all of those things in a single off season. So how exactly you go about it. I also think that inside linebacker is obviously a piece that is going to need work, but the other thing is you've got to, and we talked about this a little bit last week, got to figure out how you replace JFM, because that is a significant piece that you are going to lose. And you've got to be able to get pressure up the middle. And him and Zach Allen have been really effective over the last couple of years. But like having a QB in place, having a head coach who is obsessed with winning, I think really helps. And I think that having the owners who can spend the money definitely helps. But you can think things can, you can turn things around pretty quickly. And I should have sent it to you before this, but the turnaround in the Seahawks, when you since Mike McDonald came in, and again, a big part of it, it's not just the ability, right? It's got to get, and touched on this earlier, the togetherness that those guys showed, right? JSN probably is their superstar, and yet he was so much part of it. He is, he's an elite wide receiver. He's one of the best, like truly best in the league, and yet he was, he wanted as much as anybody. They moved they moved off of DK Metcalf because DK has plenty of ability, but he's a me first guy. You need guys who are team first. Now, you still need the lunatics, right? And you talked earlier about the Broncos Super Bowl 50, right? And the fact that they were prepared to go out and do battle. Well, many of them were prepared to do battle on the field. Aqib Talib was prepared to do battle on the field, off the field, in the club, wherever. But you need those. You
need them. Yeah, you need a few dogs in the hunt.
Seahawks were they're bullies, and but it's a physical game. You need some of that, but at the same time, they're all in. That's the piece that's difficult, right? Is assessing and finding the right guys to bring in to supplement that. George Pickens has all the ability in the world. But George Pickens is a me first guy. He's perfect for Dallas, right? Because he'll make the highlight reels that you'll get. But we saw it during the season. There were games where he just wasn't interested, so he down tools. The other thing about it is the Seahawks, they weren't brilliant throughout the entire season. They had moments, right? Phillip Rivers came off the couch and almost beat them. In some ways, that was probably a good thing for them. It was kind of a wake-up call for them. And they were definitely battle-tested from their games against the Rams. But I just think that we're in a good place, but we cannot think that anything is a guarantee. But I think in Bo Nix, we have a guy who will go to the well time and time again to win.
He's going to be easy to root for. Bo Nix is he's definitely found his way into Broncos country's hearts. He never gives up. I think if he could have found any way at all to play on a broken ankle, he would have done it. I have no doubt about that, but it just wasn't possible. I think the JFM issue, you've got Roach, you've got some pieces there, but I do think that's one they're gonna have to, they can create some money here. And I went through this the other day. There's money to be made. You've got Powers. You've got Singleton's off the books. That position's going to have to be addressed. There are ways to create over $50 million in cap space. So I think they can do pretty much whatever they want without creating much dead money either. So now you can get into Ingram. I think we should keep Ingram. I think you disagree with that, or maybe we keep him, maybe we don't. We restructure.
I think it's not as big a need as the wide receiver one and the running back room. I think, look, if we roll into next season, but I think I didn't like what I saw from him in the postseason comments.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. That's me, but I would like to. I think there are look, if you're rolling into it, as long as you supplement it with somebody up and coming, but you absolutely have to find you have to revamp that running back room again. With Harvey has a role, absolutely.
Harvey stays, 100%. Everybody else goes.
Everyone else goes. And you do what you can within reason to find yourself a wide receiver one.
Yeah. I like our room. I know that's the key, the buzzword out of Dove Valley. We like our room, and I do too. But yeah, they need a number one receiver in there, somebody that other teams have to game for. I kind of disagree with you on George Pickens, though I know he's a diva. I think all those receivers are. Very few of them aren't. I don't know about Justin Jefferson, but he's not happy right now either. So even someone who's not been known to be diva-esque is even a little diva-ish right now. So I would love to see that happen. But I think most of these guys end up getting franchised anyway, so it's just fodder for now. But I remember walking around checking Twitter every 5 minutes because this is back when I still had people inside the building, and I was waiting for a text on Peyton Manning. And that feeling of waiting for this news column was almost as great as when the news came out that we got him. Like, that's the kind of thing I'm waiting for this year on a couple moves. A running back. Now, I don't want to we're already over an hour, so we're not going to kill you people with 2 hours of show, but there are running backs out there that I think would fit really well, that I would not mind spending a little bit of money on. Now, I'm not opposed to bringing J.K. Dobbins back. if we have an insurance policy, of course. But there are some running backs out there who are very comparable who don't have a lot of injuries. We just got to see if they actually end up being free agents and stay free agents. I would not mind a trade involved in picking up a number one wide receiver. I'll let Sean and Bo and Cortland handle the Divas. I think they're capable of doing that myself. It's a different culture there. Don't forget, the Dallas Cowboys has to be one of the worst cultures. Like, they reward divas there. Like, the more ridiculous they are, the more Jerry Jones seems to dote them and encourage them. So perhaps George Pickens might not be that bad of a dude. He might fall in line. I've seen it happen in the business world. I've seen it happen in the military. I've seen it happen in my own household. You just never know. So if I saw that come across my DMs or a trade, or I expect it. I don't expect George Pickens, but I expect a big investment at wide receiver this year. And I expect a complete revamp of that running room this year.
Well, I hope so. I wouldn't. Pickens, not for me.
Not specifically Pickens. I know you're against Pickens. We can differ on that one. But are there any wide receivers out there that you wouldn't mind having, or have you looked at those yet?
Look, I mean, you never know who might be available. I think you pick up the phone and you see. I personally, I would be slow on Pickens and AJ Brown. I mean, look, if
they don't feel like Broncos,
if Justin Jefferson really was, but you can't see the Vikings. He's all they have, because JJ ain't it, and they've got to figure out what they're going to do at quarterback. But I think
contract status.
Like, I think the piece is that you might not. Would I like an absolute stud wide receiver one? Sure, but sometimes that isn't always available. But can you still look to improve the room? Can you bring somebody in who's proven in the league, who has something that they want to prove, they want to go and chase a ring, and they offer a different skill set than what we have? I think there are, even if you cannot get it done, there are ways and means. But I think the fit is so important, and I go back to like the quarterbacks piece, right? And all of the big trades, right? That happened. Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, and Aaron Rodgers. And let's leave aside.
Let's pick the three worst moves of all time to make our point.
But those are the moves that happened very recently because teams were desperate, right? And when you are desperate, you make bad decisions. And the evidence was there, right? If you really dug in, the evidence was there as to what was likely. Nobody maybe knew how badly it would go, and in those cases. But I just think you've got to do your due diligence because you want guys who do fit. And I don't think it helped the Patriots that two of their players are facing very serious charges. And Mike Vrabel can say their allegations at the podium, and that is correct. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty, but it doesn't help when two of your players end up facing charges.
Well, they're only innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But we see what happened. We see the evidence. We can make our own. It's a problem. That doesn't mean they're guilty by law, but I don't want them on my team. Based on what I've seen, so we don't have to live by that same standard. So, Colum, I think we need to. I don't know that there's any use in what ifs. So we won't do that. I think it was a lot of people were. I saw a lot of people talking about how this was a Super Bowl nobody was looking forward to, or it wasn't like this. This is. I've never been this unexcited about a Super Bowl, and I thought about that, and I felt that way too. And then I realized that most of the people on my timeline are Broncos fans. And so it made sense to me because what I realized about myself was that I was still in mourning from what happened to Bo and the AFC Championship game, that I just didn't have it in me to care about. All I wanted was for the Seahawks to beat the Pats. So I got what I wanted there. I didn't even want a good game. Like normally, if the Broncos aren't in the Super Bowl, I'm like, hey, I don't care who wins, unless Chiefs are in it. And then of course I want whoever's playing the Chiefs to win. But this year, yeah, I definitely, I was just so morose, and I was just, what was it you said? Meh. I was meh, and I really do think it was because, there was a path for the Broncos this year, and to have it not work out that way, it was heartbreaking. It was so, the way it went down. I'm in the middle of the show with Zach and David, and we're celebrating going to the AFC Championship game. We're 40 minutes into the show when it starts coming across all of our, that Bo Nix broke his ankle and he's out for the season. And we're like, oh, this can't be true. This has got to be somebody trolling us or whatever. To go from that, yeah, I've recovered. Like, the Super Bowl's over. It is what it is. But the Super Bowl to you, were you looking forward to this? Were you expecting a game? I know you and I both thought Seattle would. I thought they'd fairly easily take care of the Pats. I didn't see anything from the Pats that I think anybody can go back on my Twitter and probably a month ago said, I don't care who gets to this. Nobody's going to beat. I feel sorry for anybody that has to play the Seahawks in the Super Bowl or whatever. Like, they're going to kill everybody. And I meant it when I said it. And I'm not a prognosticator. I don't really play that game. Like, I guarantee this or whatever, but that's just what I saw. Like, I didn't see anybody, including the Broncos, that was going to go beat the Seahawks this year. Now the way that game went down, I'm like, maybe. Again, I'm a fan, but like overall, were you even looking forward to the Super Bowl? I know it came on in the middle of the night for you there. So, did you watch it until the next day, or, how did you even go about watching the Super Bowl? I got some texts from you.
Yeah,
while I was at my thing. So
I did, but I knew it would be one-sided. You could see, you knew there was a massive difference in quality between these two teams, and that's an issue, and it's different when you're a fan, right? Like, I remember, right, an early memory. I still remember it even now, and I was only a kid. I remember the lead up to when so I become a Broncos fan in the lead up to the Super Bowl '89, and in the lead up to that season, I watched the Broncos, and then the lead up to the Super Bowl, they were doing a preview, and they had already, right, whatever way it was done, they'd basically already in the stadium, they had the 49ers colors up as if they were going to win, and everybody knew, right? And I remember them interviewing Reeves and talking about it, and he said, oh, we're going, I've seen that, and I've told the guys, and we're going to do our damnedest tomorrow night to show them they got that wrong. It didn't matter. And I have a very good friend. I have a lot of time for him. He's super, super smart. He's a great person. But we were talking yesterday. I said, I cannot see how you guys win this. And he said, oh, no, Vrabel's going to have us more prepared. And they have the heart. They want it. It's more than that. That is a big part of it, but it's so much more than that you require. And to me, I think if you were a Patriots fan, you couldn't see it. If you were a fan and not a lunatic and maybe not somebody addicted to gambling, and you were able to step back, this was only ever going one way.
Yeah.
That Super Bowl, us against the 49ers, was only ever going one way. Now, it probably went worse than even like anyone could have imagined. But that this felt very much like, though, back in those years of the 80s into the mid 90s, when we were the ones to break the streak that the NFC had, but they were just so much more dominant. And I get why Broncos fans are saying we would have done it. I just don't see it. I think the Rams would have taken care of business against. Now, it would have been a much closer game, but I think that the NFC was just stronger this year. You could admire the efficiency of the Seattle Seahawks. I think you can see the way in which they created a game plan, and I think that they knew what they needed to do to beat the Patriots. I don't think there was anything quite as fun in it as watching Jalen Carter last year. Now, maybe that's because it was also against the Chiefs, and they are the kind of new evil empire, and it was fun to watch that happen. But yeah, it probably didn't quite have the explosiveness or the dominant personality. I totally see why Walker was given MVP, but it wasn't an exciting Super Bowl. No, the outcome was pretty much decided, and it was like that the cartoons of the bully who just puts their hand on the little kid's head and just keeps them, and they're just flailing their arms. That's what it felt like.
The Broncos were 5-0 against NFC teams this year, so throwing it out there. Now, as far as Tirico and Collinsworth, wow,
Trico Collinsworth.
Tirico always does his thing.
Oh,
he never tries to call attention or to himself. He's just a cool customer. He always does well. But Collinsworth is getting worse and worse and worse right before our eyes. And it's funny. There was that play last where somewhere in the third, fourth quarter, I was still listening to the game because, again, I had a thing, and I hear Collinsworth say, that was the first really great throw, and then he completes another couple, and all of a sudden Collinsworth is like, Drake's reading the defenses now. He's really got it going on, and of course I said he's going to throw an interception on the next play. It's intercepted. It's like you knew it was coming, right?
They had jinxed it as well earlier in the game, because they had said there was around about 3 minutes and I think about 20 seconds left in the first half, and they said, "Oh, there hasn't been a penalty flag. This could be the first Super Bowl where we get to the halftime and neither team has had a penalty flag against them. Next play, ding."
Can't they ever just shut their mouth up? What was your thought on Sam Monson, good friend of the show? The Pro Bowl snub of Drake May. Now, he voted for Justin Herbert famously and has been threatened with physical violence and death to he and his family, which of course is disgusting. But at the end of the day, he actually voted kind of the way you're supposed to vote. And so he was hated for it. He thought that player, and I went back and looked, and he'd been saying it for quite a while, that, if the guy had anyone around him, he's doing all this himself. Like, he voted his conscience, which we never do. We always vote who we think's going to win, and that's who we vote for. We do that in politics, and we do that in sports. So, first of all, turns out he was right. Drake May completely fell apart in the playoffs, would not have deserved to be MVP, even though that doesn't count. So good on you, Sam, if you're watching. I will shout you out in the show. But what were your thoughts on that whole debacle that you saw? And did you have any other media all media thoughts about how the game was covered, or just whatever. I know we're kind of like media nerds here, so anything off the top of your head that you can think of that kind of stood out to you over Super Bowl week or the game or all the BS surrounding it?
Yeah, look, I think the league gets it wrong with the way in which MVP is decided. In that, I think if it's going to be if it's going to be a regular season award, um, and it should be announced on the Monday after the end of the regular season. Like, okay, and then you're not going to have, if that's what they want it to be, right? Which is what it is, right? And hey, guess what? We're all in a digital world now. People could vote. Why couldn't people vote on the Monday, right? So week 18 ends, and you vote on the Monday, and it's announced. But they want the pomp and ceremony, and I think in some ways they want the controversy that sometimes goes with it, right? Because it gets people talking, it gets people engaging. I wouldn't agree with Sam in terms of how he voted. I think Stafford deserved it. But I do think he is an independent thinker. I like that. And it's not the first time that he has caused controversy like this. And I don't think he's seeking it, but I think he is voting with his conscience. Like Commanders fans lost their minds because he didn't vote for Jaden Daniels as offensive rookie of the year last year. Maybe some people out there watching will remember that he went Brock Bowers, and therefore it wasn't unanimous. And Commanders fans were still crying about that the other day. So I think the way in which, I suppose, the league sets things up, I think is backwards. I think we saw that with the Hall of Fame voting as well, and that then leads to some crazy takes where only players should have a say in this. I wouldn't quite go that far either.
No.
But I do think we are. It is a problem when people, they love the controversy without ever owning up to it. Like it's hilarious. We have it over here for the 1916 Rising. I'm sure there's an American equivalent. Everybody's grandfather took part in the 1916 Rising, which led to Irish independence, right? Everybody. Nobody missed out. Everybody voted for Bill Belichick, but somehow Bill Belichick didn't make the Hall of Fame. What's going on there?
Yeah.
So that's again the way in which it is set up, and the talking points. Look, it's a jamboree in the lead up to it. We didn't see anybody do a Russell Wilson tour this year. Like, if you remember, just before we made the trade, Russ was doing the circuit. And doing all of the interviews, so you get a lot said in the lead up to it, but a lot of it tends to be noise. The other thing, and it's not related to the Super Bowl, but one of the things that and we maybe will cover this more in depth on Spin Zone when we come back in the end of March. I think the way in which the Vikings handle the firing of the GM, they were perfectly entitled to fire the GM. Okay, huge mistakes in terms of the drafting, in terms of who they let go, all that sort of stuff. But to leak what they did about him taking paternity leave, and then for journals to kind of back this up, about like how the NFL is totally different from any other job in the world, and you don't know what it's like, and you've got to live in the facility. You've got to assess 90 guys. Gentlemen, ladies, people, there are people in managerial positions who are assessing not 90, but 900 people. And they're not sleeping in the facility. Do you know who was sleeping in the facility Mike, do you know who was? Nathaniel Hackett. How did that work
Yeah.
out? Right? So this nonsense about that time equals ability. Fire him because he was really bad at his job. He made a terrible pick. They don't have a QB. He moved off of Darnold. He moved off of Kubiak. Plenty of reasons to fire him. But I thought, we live in the world, and you see plenty. Like the Gase thing, right? Is an example, right? He's just gotten hired by the Chargers. Rappaport. What's the other one?
Schefter.
They all put out the same tweet. Gase worked with Sam Darnold because Sam Darnold is the hot name at the moment. Okay, that's a press release that has gone out from Adam Gase's agent, and they regurgitated it. People need to see through the nonsense for what that is.
Yeah, and we will get all into that certainly on the Spin Zone. Looking forward to that. I think overall the Broncos are, Colum doesn't like to say it, but optimism is the world we live in here in Broncos country, and all NFL teams. By the middle of free agency in the draft, the Titans, the Raiders, whatever your worst teams you can think of, the Jets, will all be saying it's their year in some form because of one draft pick or one free agency pick or because of something. It just happens every year. Hang on to your hats for that. But on this show, we do talk about the Broncos. And overall, I would say they are closer to making a Super Bowl than they're not making the playoffs. So I think there's a better chance that they make the playoffs again next year. I think they'll be competitive and they'll have a shot. We'll have to see what they do in the offseason. We'll have to see what they learned from this Super Bowl. I hope they learned everything that I said and half of what Colum Cronin from the Dublin to Denver podcast said. So for Colum, unless you have anything else, I'm going to sign us off. I think Broncos country is in about as good a place as you can be without being in the Super Bowl. We've got our guys, coaching staff, a few more openings there and some holes to fill. We'll get all into that and free agency, probably starting a little bit on this Thursday episode with David Talks Broncos. So for Colum Cronin, I'm Mike Carmelini. We'll see you next time on the Mile High Monsters.